note on the RU recertification units. As you notice that we don't have anything in paper for this meeting. For whoever that attended last month, you received an email from me that has attachment, a PDF attachment that shows all the names and the membership number of the people who attended. So you save that PDF. We are going to put it up at our website, but it's not up yet, but it's coming soon. And later you have 2 documents from one email that you can look it up, for example, my name, or by the title, or you can go to the website and download the list and print it and put it with your recertification package. So I think that would be easier instead of, for example, this paper that can be loose or like lost or whatever. Okay, first one. And second one, I have 25 people that I checked in. I see that we are 29 in this room, so I am missing 4 people. If you need to be on that list, so it means that you need recertification, please either register right now and your name shows up quickly on my cell phone and I can check you in, and or you can come and see me at the end of the meeting so I can check you in.
Did you check me in?
Yes, I did, yes. But we are 4. I know you, Eva, I'm missing you, and I don't know Eva. 3, 1 more. Okay? That's it. That's 4 people. Okay? So let me introduce our speaker for tonight, and we can start the meeting quickly. Tonight we have Edgar Fernandez, PhD, CRSP, CSP. Edgar Fernandez is the owner of Safefficient Limited and the architect of incident prevention and the creator of common knowledge approach. He works with honest, open-minded, and forward-thinker people. This approach helps you increase safety and performance by tapping into the common knowledge of your team. It also helps you avoid the untapped knowledge trap. Okay, please welcome Edgar.
Well, the topic of today, actually, I work in the pharmaceutical industry, and something that I want to share with you, and it's how we used the risk-based process safety, and it's known as a PSM process safety in the chemical industry. So we use that because PSM was way first that the quality system in the new quality systems in the pharmaceutical industry. So if we review, actually, we want to see that if we review all these standards, they are pretty much the same approach. So I had the opportunity actually to help my previous employer, Apotex, to transfer those skills to the quality risk management ICHQ 9. That is a standard actually they use in Europe first, and then they transfer to the United States. Now Canada is using that one. Health Canada actually, and then it pretty much is to prove that to the authorities like the FDA and Health Canada that in the pharmaceutical industry you are taking the due diligence to protect the safety of the public. So you make a medication, you manufacture a medication, you need to take all those steps. So all the PSM knowledge we transfer to the quality risk management because it's pretty much the same approach. So we're going to see it in the following slides. So there are a lot of similarities between the second pillar that I'm going to mention after. It's the understanding the hazard and the risk. So the ICHQ 9 is pretty much you need to identify, you need to have a risk approach on your manufacturing process in the pharmaceutical industry. So you need to understand what is the hazard and what are the risks when you manufacture a medication. And in the pharmaceutical industry, there are many steps. There are validations, there are R&D, there are quality assurance, quality control, and you follow they call the good manufacturing practices. So each department needs to comply with these GMPs. So we need to figure out and we need to demonstrate to these authorities that we understand the hazard and we understand the risk. I don't want to touch the new definitions of the hazard and risk from the new ISO 9001-2015, because it's not the goal of this one. It's the goal here is to demonstrate how you transfer this knowledge. So I want to show you the tools and help to identify this process requiring and required information that we need to use to perform the quality risk management. So in process safety is something also known as a process safety information, known as a PSI. The process safety information is the safety information of the process. So I would say you have a reactor, right? You are performing a chemical reaction inside of that vessel. So you need to have the safety information, so a pressure, there is a runaway reaction, what is the temperature, what is the speed of the agitator, etc. So on the quality risk management is pretty much, it's not going to be the process safety information, it's going to be the quality safety information. So what is the information that you need to have in a manual to make sure that you are protecting the safety of the public when you're manufacturing that medication? It needs to be compiled in one place, and everybody needs to know that information for designing, for modification of the process, to buy equipment, to modify procedures. So everything is in chain, right? If I modify a procedure, I need to modify that document. I need to modify the process hazard analysis or the quality hazard analysis. It's in everything in change. So I'm going to mention concepts of the management of change as well. So this is very, very important. Who participates on the quality risk management? So it's pretty much is the we want to determine who participates. So he's going to be the owner of the process, in this case. So it could be engineering or the process engineer. In the pharmaceutical industry, he's the guy who's in charge of that process. And then from that process, from that guy, everybody's around. It's safety, it's maintenance and engineering that complies with the GMPs, QA, QC, and R&D. And then all those people, they need to participate on this hazard analysis. What methodologies we can use? And this is the similarities. If we read the ICHQ 9, it's HACCP, hazardous and operability, HACCP on what if, the fault tree analysis. So all these methodologies are mentioned on the ICHQ 9. So PSM, where we're using those methodologies way before to identify hazards and determine risk on the chemical processes. So we want to determine cause and consequences, safeguards, and risk ranking and recommendations. So it's something that you need to define the cause. What is the consequences of that cause? What is the safeguard that you have? In this case, the quality. Could be in a procedure, could be in a monitoring, could be an automated system, could be in a series of engineering measurements, administrative measurements. That's going to be your safeguards. If you don't have a safeguard to prevent that consequence out now, you're going to provide a recommendation. Also, you're going to risk rank the safeguard and the recommendation as well. And then you're going to provide training. So what are the, in the management system actually outside of the pharmaceutical industry, so you have three standards, right? You have the safety. Now is the ISO 45001 before the OSHA's 18001. And you have the risk-based process safety. You have the environmental, you have the ISO 14001, and in quality, the ISO 19001. So all these, except the ISO 14001, the 9001 and the 45001, the new version is 2015. What is the similarities here? All of them, all those two, plus the ICHQ 9 in the pharmaceutical industry, are risk-based approach. So that means I'm going to give you an example. So you're gonna make a decision into. So now, so for example, in your company, you are having a very a period that the money is short. So the economy, the finances of your company, they are not doing well. And then you are deciding you're going to make the decision to cut some cost, right? And that's going to impact the maintenance of your facility and some equipment that is going to be involved in certain process to manufacture medication. So now, these two standards, they are asking you to identify the hazards and the risk and risk rank that decision. Because has happened in the past that when we cut cost and then we impact maintenance and other departments, 6 months or 3 months or 1 year after, incidents happen. In the safety side, but in the quality side as well, because there are critical maintenance that we need to perform. And nobody assesses those decisions. We need to cut it, we need to cut the money, we go for it. Somebody's going to say, hey, you need to look at this, because this maintenance promise is critical. Yeah, I know, but I need to do that. I need to save cost. So now they're asking you, okay, what is the decision? You have risk rank that decision? Have you identified how it's going to impact in your business? You're going to identify how it's going to be the impact on your process? Because that decision can have a really, really very important impact in 6 months. Could be an incident for sure. So you need to assess that. So 9001 and the 45001, they're asking for that approach. So that's one of the biggest changes. So now the same for the risk-based process safety. Actually, the risk-based process safety, the PSM in the United States, the OSHA, in conjunction with the Chemical Safety Board, they were the first one they took that approach, because they were investigating a lot of chemical incidents in the chemical industry. They found out there were a lot of decisions that were made, but they never identified the hazards and risks of those decisions. So they created another pillar. Now that's the reason why now we have 20 elements. So this approach is coming from that, and then is when these guys, they decided, okay, we're going to go to the same approach, because here, now they are decreasing the incidents now, because now they are now watching the management. Not the system, is the management team, how they make those decisions, how they are involved in those decisions. This is a risk-based process safety. 20 elements, before there were 14. The pillar on the understand that hazards and risks, manage risks, and learn from the experience. The new one is commit to process safety. So now in the quality, you're going to ask me, okay, but this is safety. No, but in quality, pretty much is the same. We're going to see it, the ICHQ9, how they are the similarities. So you have GMPs, is ICHQ7 in the pharmaceutical industry. You have development of medication in ICHQ8, risk analysis ICHQ9, and quality system ICHQ10. Pretty much very similar ISO 9001 in the pharmaceutical industry. Very similar, with certain components very particular for the industry. The same this one. And ICHQ9, Q8, and Q7, they are completely different. They are only for the pharmaceutical and food industry. Similarities. What the risk-based process safety says, so we need to take a strategic approach. This approach recognizes all hazards and risks in an operational facility. No facility are not equal. So what's the ICQH9? So quality risk management is a systematic process as well. So we need to use something that is going to show to the authorities that we are following a systematic approach to identify hazards and risks. Very similar. They use the same high-intensity practices to manage every hazard. Same here. Only the name change is quality, but the methodologies pretty much are the same. Something that is very important to avoid, to protect the public of the safety in terms of the medication, the same on the safety, is understanding the risk associated. That's very important. So what is the risk? What is the consequence of that cause? So if I'm going to change a parameter, or you want to do a modification in the automation system, in a PLC, for example, in the pharmaceutical industry, in a reactor or a dryer. So how's going to impact that? How I'm going to communicate that change, and how I'm going to control it? What documents I need to modify? And now I need to prove to the authority that I'm following a systematic approach, that I make sure that I understand the risk of that modification, the consequence of that modification. It's the same for the quality. We need to understand the product life cycle of that process as well. So what is going to be the impact of our decisions or modifications, or we introduce a new equipment to the manufacturing facility in the pharmaceutical industry with a no MOC, management of change, no manufacturing information, and then suddenly you see it on the floor. What is this? And then you start using it. No training, no procedure, and somebody says, okay, I'm going to use it. I plug it, and then something is going to happen. In terms of safety, yeah, maybe injuries. In terms of the quality, yeah, absolutely. So that's the things that we need to understand. Those type of decisions, everything that we want to do needs to be now risk-assessed to protect the public, the safety of the public. So the same for the drugs, for the medications. So in safety, actually, in process safety, we have something that is understanding of the demand of process safety activities. What are those activities? The same on the quality. What are those activities that are going to impact your process, the medication at the end? It's going to be maintenance? Absolutely. It's going to be engineering practices? Absolutely. Production? Absolutely. They call something that is they follow the master. It's a master document in the manufacturing any medication. It's around 250 pages. Because since you collect the raw materials, how you're going to produce, how you're going to clean the equipment, how you're going to send and identify in the warehouse, and the testing of the quality control lab. So there is a bunch. It's a master production batch. That's the name of the document. So this the master batch document is the process activities. In safety, it's a process safety activity. In quality, you have all the elements there recorded according to that one, to the master record that you need to follow during the manufacturing the process. So, for example, if you need to increase the temperature of the reactor of the dryer during the manufacturing of the medication, they call active ingredients, pharmaceutical active ingredients, in the pharmacochemical industry. So you need to say, okay, you make a deviation, right? And then you need to investigate why you are making that deviation. It needs to be justified. So then you generate CAPAs, corrective action and preventive actions. That is not the topic of this. But you need to generate those ones. You need to demonstrate when you have an audit from the Health Canada or the FDA, if the auditor catch on that mistake, on that modification, he's going to ask you all those type of questions. You need to demonstrate that you are following this systematic approach and that you are understanding the demand of the process safety activities as well. The same happened in maintenance. Something broke in the middle of the manufacturing process, you need to justify that. You need to explain that. You need to justify why maintenance went inside and perform that fix, and how they did it, and how long they took to make that to perform the fix. Is it going to affect the batch or not? Is something that is going to be determined. So all those information that I'm telling you is something that you need to consider when we want to see the map when you start developing that medication. And we want to see it. I want to show you the map actually. So another similarities. Understanding of the risk associated with the facility's operation is the evaluation of the quality. The risk to the quality should be based on scientific knowledge and ultimately linked to the protection of the patient. So the same here, needs process safety, needs to be related with activities and resources needed for the manufacturing process. So you need to know very well your process, what activities are involved from that process, not only from the production standpoint of view, for the quality standpoint of view as well, and from the engineering and maintenance standpoint of view. You need to understand how the process safety activities are influenced by the process safety culture in the organizations. And here the same is the level of effort, formality, and documentation of the quality risk management process should be commensurate with the level of risk. So a lot of commitment from management. So they're asking management to review the system. Now your management system, your ICHQ9 management system, by the top management. How you are doing, how many action items we have, how many action items that have been closed, how many procedures have been reviewed and updated. That is going to impact the safety of the medication. All that stuff. It's very interesting, but it's something that the auditors are going to start asking you. This is a similarity of the process quality risk analysis and risk-based process safety. So I show you the pillars. This understanding the risk is the same. It's the same process. So you initiate the quality risk management. So in safety, you initiate the risk management, the safety risk management, and you're going to identify, you're going to analyze, and you're going to evaluate. You're going to control, you're going to assess, you're going to control, and then you're going to review. Risk assessment, risk control, and risk review. And then you follow the cycle as well. Again, if you don't accept the risk, okay, so now what you're going to do? That's the recommendations. And then evaluate those recommendations. And then when you implement the recommendations on the floor, you evaluate again the risk. Really there was effective that implementation, yes or no? That's very similar, it's the same in process safety. Same approach. So if you're in the pharmaceutical industry or in the automotive industry, if you have a guy or a person, a professional that knows safety, not process safety that is on the chemical industry, but sometimes they can use some principles in other type of industries. But somebody who knows how to perform hazard analysis using different methodologies that I mentioned before, HAZOPs plus what if, fault tree analysis, I would recommend actually use the experience of that person, because he knows all of this for sure. And you guys can use that knowledge to achieve this goal in quality. That's the thing that we did in Apotex, actually. So now from process safety, now they're asking pretty much the same. So now we conform the team, and then we apply those principles to the quality risk management. Why we do that? You see the story of the FDA actually is published. You go to the FDA page, the Federal Drug Administration in the United States. Only in the month of December of 2016, there were 150 Forms 483s. What is a Form 483? It's a deviation on the system that they believe that is going to impact the safety of the public. For that reason, they say you cannot produce anymore until you show me that you are protecting the safety of the public. So pretty much they can shut down on a facility. No, they don't shut down on a facility. Pretty much you cannot export medication or any drug or food to the United States. The same happens in Europe or in Australia. Canada is adopting these measurements as well. Actually, it's more stricter than the United States. So the Canadian government, the Health Canada, for example, they team up with the FDA inspectors, and they say, okay, we're going to go a little bit higher, and they did it. So there were 150 Forms 483 only in the month of December, according to the FDA, in the food and pharmaceutical industry, And all of those ones, they were related of the lack or identification of risk. Nobody can prove on those 150 companies, nobody went to this system. So you modify something during the process, like I said, I modified a temperature, a parameter in the reactor. I need to show that I want to make sure that change needs to go through this to assure that I'm protecting the safety of the public. If not, they're going to give me on a 483, and I can still produce that medication, but it cannot go to the United States. So it is really, they are emphasizing the same in Canada to go through this process. Because they can, and they ask actually to fix it as soon as possible, depending on the critical or the risk. They ask you for 15, 30 days, 60, 90 days, or 6 months. But for sure, they're going to go to your facility after 30 days, and then after again, 90 days after the audit, to make sure that you're following this. And actually, they were asking for evidence. Evidence is training. If you haven't provided training, they're going to ask you for that. They're going to ask you for the procedures. They're going to ask you for the meeting minutes. They're going to ask you for the formats of the hazard assessment. They're going to ask you for many things. The pharmaceutical industry is a very strict industry. I think the vehicle industry, the automotive industry, and the pharmaceutical industry are the most strange and strict industries in the world. And there is a reason why, right? If I take a pill, well, if I don't manufacture it properly, I can kill somebody. So that's the reason why all these regulations. Yeah.
The question, are you going to show the tools of how we do it here, or just?
I'm gonna show on a template only, because really somebody needs a training. It takes to train somebody on hazard and risk assessment in HACCP is gonna take a week. So we can go through elements. We can simulate situations. We can take any risk that you any situation that you have in your facility, any process, and we can go through. But it's something that you need to understand the tools, where you need to look at it, what is process safety information, and then how you need to facilitate that. Because once you have the process safety, the hazard, or they call the process hazard analysis, there is a lot of activity you need to do before. So it takes a month actually to prepare the process hazard analysis. So if somebody's in my case, I was the senior process safety engineer. When some R&D said, I want to do a process hazard analysis, at least he needed to give me a 1 month in advance notice. Because I need to list procedures, I need to list, is the quality safety information, or the process safety information in safety. So I need to list procedures, I need to list incidents, what happened in that period of time. So really I need to do a collection of information, management of change, all that stuff. So I need to really deep on that on those documents. And then it's a history, right? So actually, how you track that history. So you can update those documents every 5 years, or every time that you do a modification on the process. That's pretty much that the standard says. So what's the hazard identification and risk analysis says? It's a collective term that encompasses all activities involved in identifying the hazards. What's in the pharmaceutical quality system? Define the problem and or the risk in question, including pertinent assumptions to identify the potential for risk. So you can do some assumptions. So actually, when you conduct a process hazard analysis, we call something that is a valid question. Maybe it could be a crazy question, but it's a valid question. We say all the team that participates on the quality management system says it's a valid question, and now it needs to be analyzed. We need to find the consequence, what guard we have to avoid that consequence, risk ranked is enough or not, And then if the team decides that it's enough, so you don't provide any recommendations, but the team decides, no, we need to go higher, so now you provide a recommendation. So actually, risk management should include systematic processes designed and to coordinate. So now this system is going to help you to coordinate, facilitate, and improve science-based decisions making with respect to risk. So now you are forcing to analyze data. Remember on your presentation on February about the skills that they're going to be needed by 2020 according to the World Economic Forum? Is one of them. How are you going to transfer these skills to solve problems? That's the intention of this presentation, actually. It's how that you have a specific knowledge, how you can help others to solve something different that is not in your field. Analyzing that is something that is going to be very critical. And actually, these approaches is that intention. Actually, it's the main intention. When they say you need to be a risk approach, you need to analyze decisions that you make, etc. Is pretty much you need to analyze data. You need to justify that, to start compiling information that in 5 years or 3 years, I can go to my process hazard analysis and say, okay, what was the reason that we made that decision? Okay. Oh yeah, it's documented. Yeah, that was the reason why that happened. So now we have the same situation, yes or no? No, because we have these safeguards, for example. So I'm going to give you an example. So before actually on the automation systems, the operators they didn't need to put a password, right? These systems have been evolved, so now you need to put a password. So if you make a decision when you don't need it to put a password, now you need it, so you can base that decision on that data. Simple, right? But something can be more complicated, like you decided to modify the formula of the API, the active pharmaceutical ingredient. That's something that you need to go to the design information of the ingredient. And on the design information of the ingredient, you have to safety, because it's a chemical industry, and you have the quality because it goes to the pharmaceutical industry. It's a pharmaceutical industry. So you need to have two. One is to prevent incidents, and another one is to avoid killing somebody. That's the reason why. It's analyzing that data. Science-based decision making with respect to risk. Data. Risk ranking. What risk, what causes you to find? Because one cause can have more than one consequence. Can have 5. I found that in my experience that one cause can have 5 consequences. So I need to analyze each one of them. Yeah. Same cause, yeah. Consequences are different parameters, different nature. They have. You guys have heard about the bow tie analysis. Yeah. Now, if you want to go further, so now in the process safety we have LOPA, layers of protection analysis. So when I have 5 consequences, I need to analyze each one of those. So I need to go to the bow tie, cause and effect on each one, and do the seal that is the safety integrity level that is in terms of probabilities. Now I need to do a mathematical calculation. What's going to happen every 10 years, every 5 years, every year, or every 10 hours, etc. Different risk ranking. But before going on that, you need to master this, because this is simple, we'd say. To jump to the other stuff, you need to master this. You need to identify all your causes and consequences. And something that it could you do it simple, meaning in a simple manner, is what if? What if happened this? What if happened that? What if happened such thing? Once you have all the data, now you can jump to the next level. This is very important. So it's a scope of the risk assessment. Define the process to assess by creating a process flow diagram. You cannot conduct any hazard assessment, or you cannot determine any quality risk if you don't have your process flow diagram. What is a process flow diagram? It's a picture of your process. So like I kept picturing you. That's the process flow diagram. It's a picture of your process. Split the process in sub-processes that is called nodes to manage and scope the risk analysis. So you can analyze all the process, depending on the complex of that, or you can split it in parts, in chunks. It's the same for the process safety and for the risk-based process safety. Okay, so given all that theory, this is a real case. I didn't put the name of the company because it's confidential. And this is the end of the map. Behind of this map, there is a lot of work to be done. There are pages and pages of mapping. So this is the steps on how to design a medication from the beginning. Goes to R&D. The R&D determines the route, the chemistry route. Actually, they have 3 or 4, and they determine one. And then after that, they say, okay, the route and product solid form investigation. So we start a kickoff meeting, and the route and product form defined, right? Now, after that, this stage typically lasts 2 and 4 months. And then there's a reference standard preparation and initial analytical method development that takes about 4 months. Now we can start the conceptual phase, the process safety information and hazard in safety, the same in quality. So what we're gonna need, or what we need to know to determine, to identify hazards and risk. What type of information we need to have. Pretty much it's a checklist. You need to have a checklist to facilitate your life. So what type of information I need? How you can create that checklist? In teams. So now I'm taking the knowledge of everybody, of each one of you in your field, in your department. I'm facilitating only the process. Risk from R&D, what do you think? So there is a process engineer, there are engineers, they call R&D process engineers. So now they're going to help us to escalate that from the lab scale to the commercial scale. But they're going to see what happened at the lab scale or the reaction. So for example, in the lab, at the lab scale, they simulate the scrubber. So it's you are washing gases. And then you see a small quantity of gas being generated, right? I said, no, it's not too much. You escalate it to the commercial production, now it's going to go 1,000 liters, 2,000, 4,000 liters of that on the reactor. Now the small quantity of vapor being generated, that gas, is something massive in the facility. What is that? We know what is that. It's H2S. What is that? Because if my scrubber is not sized properly and the solution is not the right one, I need to report that to the FDA and to the Minister of Environment as well. It's not going to wash the gas, and the scrubber is part of the process. So it's going to FDA takes that as part of the quality process. So if I stop the process because of the scrubber is not sized properly, I need to justify to 2 authorities. One, because something is going to be emitted to the atmosphere, and the second one is stopping a process that quality can be affected. So that's the reason why we call this step conceptual phase. So we start asking questions, pretty much, what if? The second one, when we go to the optimization and method development, now we start a basic design, PSI and hazard. So we start the hazard in a very basic way. So now, the critical parameters on the stress studies, a series of studies here, is when we have the process safety information for R&D and transfer technology. So now we know what happened in that reaction. That we know what equipment we want to use. the parameters, the safety information as well, all that info, MSDSs, all that type of information. Now we have a book of that. It's going to be a runaway reaction, all type of measurements, an endothermic or exothermic reaction. And you're going to see that you're going to hear those terms, but is this important for quality? Absolutely. Yeah, it's an runaway reaction. How you're going to control that? You need to it's a deviation on the quality process. You need to explain why that runaway reaction happened. Why you cold and then suddenly the temperature increased and reaction happened again. Why that happened? Why? So utilities is very important. You determine the utilities of your process. Nitrogen, right? So how much nitrogen we need to freeze that reaction? It's gonna go to 70, and then I need to go to 2, or sometimes there are reactions that I need to control at -40. It depends. So, and then process operating management, R&D, QC meeting. So now it's not batches. Now they're start producing something small. So now we detail the process safety information and the hazardous and operability study. And then the scale up. Now we're gonna take it now to the pilot plant to produce at least 1,000 liters to see what happened. And then from there, we're going to take it to have reactions of 4,000 liters, depending on the size of the batch. So now it's operation phase, PSN and HACCP. And then now we start producing, and you submit all of that. Before this, there is like, the map is very long. Because each one of these squares, they have very specific steps. And then in each one of those steps, we say, okay, this is the time that we need to have a meeting. This is the time that you need to provide me the information. And this is called map, value stream map. That helps a lot, actually. In safety, I don't know if you have heard about Taproot. Taproot is an incident investigation methodology. It's used a lot, especially in the oil and gas industry in Alberta. But the same in the pharmaceutical industry, aerospace industry, automotive industry as well. And pretty much it's something that we take actually from that methodology to do this. It's okay. How we're gonna make the value stream mapping, right? And then we're gonna see in what phases we need to meet, in what phases we need to do these studies, what phases we need to do all these processes, identify causes, consequences, risk ranking, safeguards. Because remember, this is the HACCP, but the HACCP is going to have recommendations. So I need to modify any, I don't know, a nitrogen piping, or I need to, I don't know, I need to move one equipment to another plant to different one. We have the Discover solution, for example. My discovery size properly. If we have a secondary reaction, well, we want to tackle that. So you can have industrial hygiene issues as well. So, and then on the quality side, actually, it's like, okay, so you start developing the master batch record, the parameters, and they say, okay, if the temperature goes above this range, what we're gonna do? The operator need to stop, need to call maintenance, or what needs to do? And then you define the process. So okay, you go, if your reaction temperature is 75 and then your range is 80 and you go to 85, okay, what you're gonna do when your reaction is going to 85? What you're gonna do? So it's not something that I need to tell the operator, you're gonna do this, right? Or you're gonna stop, or little by little you're gonna start cooling the reaction, right? So something that I need to do, and then register the deviation. That is called incident in safety. Incident is something like fire, like somebody hurt his leg, something like that. But in quality, it's an incident, right? Because now I went above of the range. That is an incident. Now I need to investigate. So when I say investigation, it's something on the pillar they call learning from experience. And again, analyzing data. What's going to give me the learning from experience? So now I have this, I'm going to audit, I'm going to review every 5 years on any modification, right? Incident reporting, the inequality is, okay, I'll go above this parameter, what that's an incident, so I need to see how many incidents on that specific process have the process has had in a period of time, 5 years or 2 years, I don't know, depending. It's a modification in 1 year, I need to see 1 year, right? The picture of 1 year. So that is going to help us to learn from the experience. So you have an inequality incident in the past, you don't need to have it on the second time. Because now the FDA is going to say something about it. So, okay, what is your CAPA? Corrective action, preventive actions. Corrective action, it's you're going to correct the situation, right? For example, if I'm drying powder after the reaction, filtration, all that stuff, so now I need to dry the powder, right? To have the API. There are many dryers, but we're going to take any dryer, like rotary cone dryer. And then suddenly, the rotary cone dryer stopped in the vertical position. Oh my God. And the drying process hasn't finished. So CAPA, corrective action, so I'm going to figure out, I'm going to find what happened in that incident for that dryer. Prevention action, I'm going to review all the rotary cone dryers. If you don't do that, FDA and Health Canada, they're going to say something about it. They want to see the CAPA. I correct this situation. Now, my action item on the system is going to be, I'm going to review all the dryers, all the rotary cone dryers, to prevent this occurrence happen on the other ones. They want to see that. And then it's, again, analyzing data to prevent incidents. So in each department on the pharmaceutical industry, and I imagine the same on the automotive industry, each department, each specialist needs to do the same type of job. So in their field, in quality, they need to start analyzing data, quality assurance, process engineering. They need to keep doing the same, safety, all those, engineering and maintenance, all of them they need to do the same. And when we have these sessions on hazards, so we have around maybe not too many people, because the session needs to be. There are long sessions, so you need to make it more. You need to make them dynamic. So I would say maybe between 5 or 7 people, the real experts, the real people who are involved. So why the real people? You need to have operators, yes. The operators, why the operators? Is something that we ignore. I'm seeing through my experience. I'm not saying you and your company, but something that I want to share with you. Operators, they know more than everybody here. Absolutely. More than me, for sure, yes. Why? Well, he has been in that process for 25 years or 20 years. For sure, he's going to know more than me. He's going to have more ideas? Absolutely. He doesn't need to be an engineer. He has the practical, the hands-on expertise. He has a lot of ideas. So you take those guys, 1, 2 operators, experienced operators, you invite them. You have the engineers, the R&D engineer, the transfer technology engineer, and then we discuss. Sometimes managers participate. But one thing, when the manager or director participates, decisions cannot be made at that moment. Everything that each participant believes that needs to go to the study goes to the study. After, when you present the final result, the final recommendations, now the management teams, they can make decisions. And pretty much this is the process, the map, the strategy, understanding the risk pillar. So it's a conceptual phase, the R&D, the reaction study, material, the SDSS, thermal stability, data, reaction mechanisms, material compatibility. You start the conceptual hazard, like I said. You update the HACCP, information about the process, mass balances is very important in this industry, R&D, basic design phase, and then you go to update the HACCP, you review SOPs, master batch records, flow diagrams, PNIDs, past incidents, investigations, project engineers, maintenance, production. That's now you go to the details design phase, and the same, you go review all the procedures, action items for the HACCPs, you update whatever you need to update, and then you start producing. That's pretty much the process flow of this. So, like I said, we have the information, process flow diagrams, the specifications for design, standard operation procedures. This knowledge implies understanding, not simply compiling data. So in that respect, the competency element complements the knowledge element that it helps to ensure that users can properly interpret it and understand the information. That's the reason why I said you need to have operators. You need to have competent people. Competent people, it's defined by 3 components. You have a qualified person, right? It's been trained and knows the health and safety and the quality of the process. 3 components. They're going to be looking for Minister of Labor, Minister of Environment, FDA, Health Canada. They base that the competent definition on those 3 terms. Likelihood, we're going to see the likelihood that is, and actually the risk ranking is in 3 terms, is the probability, frequency, and severity. Like I said, I don't want to touch much on this. So it's a dependable practice. We document the risk management system. We integrate the hazard identification and risk assessment activities for the life cycle of the projects. We clearly define the analytical scope. We determine the physical scope of the risk system. We involve competent personnel. We make consistent risk judgments. So based on a criteria in a very well approved and known criteria. So that's the reason why we call it common knowledge approach. We avoid common sense here. Common sense in an industry, in my personal opinion, in my experience, doesn't go well. Common sense for you something, for me is different, for you something different. For you something different, for everybody. For each one of us, a particular situation, we want to perceive that situation in a very different manner. But if I go a common knowledge, a procedure, a training, everybody's going to perceive everything the same. And then we verify the practices and remain effective. Now, here it's the facilitator. You need to identify the facilitator, the leader. So that's the guy who needs to have this training for 5 days to facilitate this process, the process hazard analysis, to collect all the process safety information, all the quality information. He needs to do all the groundwork before go to the meeting. And normally the other people who participate 1 or 2 days to understand the process, to understand what is a hazard and risk and the quality system and what the facilitator is doing. So now we have the principle, we assess the risk, and we make risk-based decisions. And one hazard has been identified. If we identify one hazard, now needs to be analyzed. The acceptability of the risk must be judged. So that's something that I want to show you after. Okay. So now we're going to define the problem. What's the process that we're going to analyze? So we go to another real case. So this is an PNID of the reaction system, right? So you can do it in many ways, actually. So you can do it from once at all. That I don't recommend these type of processes because you have the reactor, you have the distillation tower, you have pumps, you have utilities. So each one has his risk by nature. So you split it. So actually, these lines that you see, it's split. This is they're called nodes. So each node has its specific questions, specific causes and consequences. So that's the way to do it. You avoid confusion. So, and then you take a better control of the process hazard analysis. Okay, methodology that you can use. Hazard and operability. Something that I forgot to mention on this one, operability is very important. So, would say there is a room here, and there is a control room on the other one. You have here all the process, right? And then for a reason, you have the valve, one of the critical valves on the other room. You need to close that valve manually. Now you need to run to the other room. So that's operability. What is the easiest way? To have it in the other room or to have it on the same room? On the same room. So operability, you can use lean manufacturing. So to do this as well, to organize your manufacturing place. Kaizen blitz could be used as well to go to the operability. So how you want your station arranged. That's operability needs. What if analysis, what if and hazard analysis, failure mode effect analysis. So like I said, these methodologies for hazard analysis, they have their own particular nature. So this one I'm going to use it on the automation system. Maybe I'm going to use this one or this one. So if I need to risk assess an automation system that is going to control temperature, pressure, speed, flow, all that stuff, I don't go with hazard, I go with this one. Hazard analysis and critical control points, hazard, and the whole industry. And this is another risk assessment map that we go for the chemical industry. But pretty much I show it on the real case. That map is the thing that we apply to there. Now your question that you were asking me, this is a template of hazard. You have the deviation, low flow of nitrogen, the cause, the consequence, the safeguard, the risk ranking, recommended action, and who's going to be the responsible person who's going to implement it. When you do this, the responsible always, my recommendation, guy, is always name the manager of the department. At the end, it's going to be the guy who has the control and the authority on the department, and he's going to designate the right person to close this action item. So always I mention managers, because I'm not the boss of his people. So I respect the authority. And believe me, you do that, everybody's going to help you. It's going to help you. Yes.
Can you talk more about the risk ranking?
Oh, yeah. There is actually, let me see if there is a next slide.
Okay.
So, actually, this is the risk ranking, but depending on the methodology that you're going to use, now you need to do seal safety integrity level. You need to do some very easy calculations to determine is 10 minus 9, that means it's going to happen every 5 or 10 years. So you predict more. And here, actually, I cannot see it very well, but and actually there are different scenarios: legal, environment, assets, personal health and safety, and then you risk rank the consequences and severities. You list it, and then you go to likelihood, frequency, and severity, and then you go low, minor, moderate, and critical, and then it's rare, unlikely, possible, likely, and frequent. So, but you're going to have likelihood, frequency, and severity on your risk ranking section on this one. And then you go with that table. That's an example. Every company can use. They use generic or they use their own, depending on the nature of the company, how extreme they want to go. And then you want to make this one more effective. Well, there is a very quick advice, but okay. So yeah, something that works for me to make this one more friendly and more integrate the people. You're gonna believe it or not, but it works for me. Always, when you start on a hassle, bring coffee and donuts, and at the end provide lunch. Because these one guys, to be serious, you can't have sessions for 5 days, especially when there are new processes. 5 days and for 8 hours. So obviously, people at least is going to expect the coffee and donuts and lunch. Sorry.
Is it likelihood and frequency basically the same thing?
No, actually, the frequency it's going to be like a month, once every 3 years, or once a year. Likelihood
okay.
Often, rarely, all that stuff. Yeah. Your question is good, actually, and that's the problem that with this using this table. So pretty much it's the same. But if you go to SEAL now, to the safety integrity level, you eliminate that because you need to provide data. What was the last incident, and then and it's a formula that you use, and then you populate the formula, and it's going to give you the number, and you eliminate that incident. Any other question? So as you can see, two things. One that I want to share with you, what I wanted to share with you is, you want remember in the presentation in February, actually I was doing more searching. And it's unbelievable how in 2020 people who want to be able to fix complex problems, creativity, cognitive flexibility, service-oriented, emotional intelligence, all that. But the three of them, if I remember your presentation, was complex problem solution, creativity, and cognitive flexibility. That's going to be the three skills that they're going to be looking for. So it's not much how you know, it's how much value you can bring to the company. So you have a specific knowledge. This is my experience. I share my experience. And many people were behind on this. But it's something that the industry is looking for right now. Who can make this? Because I'm seeing other presentation on the new ISO 9001, 2015, and people really get scared because now it's risk-based, something new. Now they're asking for your decisions. Before no, but now, yeah. Why you make that? Why you make that decision and based on what? And you need to have this knowledge. But generic, you don't want to go deep. And that's the way to start tackling these situations little by little. And if you are in charge of quality in your company, approach your safety specialist, your safety professional. He knows that. In the automotive industry, you have safety engineers, so they should know that because they deal with machine guarding. So there is a risk assessment of machine guarding as well. They deal with a lot of automation as well. They need to do risk assessments, failure, fault tree analysis, failure and consequence. So they can help you for sure. It's a team effort. But having that knowledge is gonna facilitate your life in the future. That's the thing that now the industries are looking for. Because really these new versions, they are representing a challenge to the companies. So and at the end, this is my company actually, I changed it actually, it's a common knowledge engineering solutions. So the things that we do actually in my company is we find solutions. We help the people and businesses to engineer the blueprints to increase the performance. So it's very simple, guys. Don't complicate this. Ask, listen, and change. Right? And then now you're going to avoid injured people, injure or kill, lost time and money, and lower performance and profits. Is because you don't use the knowledge of the common knowledge of your people inside of the company. There are a lot of knowledge that hasn't been used. So now what we transform 0 incidents, save and time money, right? Increase performance and profit is because we tap on the common knowledge of everybody. Everybody has a specific knowledge and a specific ability. So we need to use it. Any other question? Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share these speeches.